everybody. Karen Roby here for Tech Republic. Dallin Adams with me here today to talk about, as we're all working from home, there are all kinds of hurdles, Dallin, that we have to overcome. And one of the biggest concerns across the board is security. As people are working from home, kids are at home doing their schoolwork, and the security concerns are everywhere. And a new report you talk about in this article is really intriguing, just how bad things are when it comes to security. What'd you learn here?
Yeah, a lot of companies are playing a bit of catch up with their kind of remote IT policy. A lot of teams are kind of patchworking together their whole strategy to make sure everyone can safely and securely work from home. Yeah, and so I recently looked at a report that was analyzing sort of password credentials of some of the top pharmaceutical executives on the planet and just looking at weaknesses in sort of home security systems. Yeah, the report itself is called the path of least resistance, and it kind of paints the picture of, why on earth would you want to break in to if you're trying to gain access to a corporate entity, you're probably not going to go through the digital corporate front door and just, have to fight through a $10 million security system and try to like bypass a whole team of people that are perpetually on the clock monitoring sort of like surveillance and cybersecurity. The path of least resistance, I think the way it's framed in the report that I put online was the path of least resistance, according to the CEO of the company I spoke with, is through the soft underbelly of the company, which is through the executives who may not have the sort of best personal privacy habits to kind of keep the company secure.
And that's pretty scary. You're talking about pharmaceutical companies that have millions of dollars dedicated to IT teams and this infrastructure, which should keep things as safe as possible. But the path of least resistance, if we're talking about just finding a weak password, that's pretty scary and sad too, right?
It's super scary, especially right now. There was a big Merck data breach a few years ago, and I think there's a whole monetary side and there's a whole like social blowback side to it. And like I think the company ended up, the breach cost them like hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more than $1 billion. And you know the whole other side is like, okay, I might not want to use that company anymore for my own personal information. And then there's the side where one researcher at that company, I believe I read a Bloomberg report, one researcher at Merck said she lost years of research. There's a whole loss of research tied into these leaks too. So the report kind of highlights a few sort of startling like key findings overall. One of the main ones was like 68% of pharmaceutical executive emails were leaked in the last 5 to 10 years due to a data breach.
That's
And
significant.
yeah, it's huge. Of those leaked, 57%, so more than half, those cracked passwords to those emails were available in the darker deep web.
So, okay.
Just served up on a platter, just
Right.
hanging out.
Take them. Right. And those passwords were weak, I guess, or old, or what would they say there?
Yes and yes. So it's 3% of the passwords on the dark and deep web, 3%. The password was or similar to the company name. So verbatim, the company name, or just like company name, hashtag, numbers, numeral sign, $1. So, and then sometimes these executives were using the same password for years. I think there was one example where an individual was using a password for 15 years. There are situations in which these individuals, these executives are taking passwords from their old company, get a new job over here at other pharmaceutical company and keeping the same password. So essentially taking the data, taking the security vulnerabilities from their previous job and then just bringing them to another company, tying in a whole nother company to this web of vulnerability.
Wow, that's really unbelievable. And we talk about, of course, we've had World Password Day this week and highlighting a lot of, where we stand with passwords. When will we be passwordless, altogether, and some of the alternatives to using passwords, because and this certainly, highlights that it doesn't matter how amazing your infrastructure is, the security is set up. If the weak link is the human that is just lazy and doesn't change their password or still doesn't see the significance, nothing else matters.
Or just just your natural vulnerabilities at home. It's not the same place as a corporate environment. You have your kids on the Wi-Fi. You have your nieces and nephews coming over for Thanksgiving. I speak to, and I use that example. I spoke with the CEO and founder of Black Cloak, which specializes in essentially utilizing and securing executives. And that was a nod to him. He references, you have all these people on your security, like at the holidays, year round. Like there's a whole slew of vulnerabilities there, and the idea of protecting an employee in their private life, it does come with its own set of privacy and data concerns. So Black Cloak essentially exists to kind of alleviate that concern and hand it off to a third party, and they look after like the high end clientele. Pharmaceutical executives in particular would fit the bill for that and protect them in their private lives.
Okay, and so Dallin, once the client is signed up, what happens from there?
Yeah, there's a whole, I try to ask some questions and I can only get so far. It's a lot of that's proprietary information with Black Cloak.
Right.
But I asked them, once we're signed, once a company's onboarded, then we can take the next steps and see like, okay, what kind of risks are already there? What kind of risks are already present? And then we can move forward. So the first thing they can do is go to their home and pen test it. And, according to company data, I asked the question and he was like, Chris Pearson with Black Cloak told me, you know, the company's data on compromised executive data is even more alarming. Of the executives that they've already onboarded, 30% of these individuals have already been hacked. And what that means is essentially their computers are hacked, or their cameras are compromised, or their home security networks, usually like a home automation service, is already been it's already been cracked. It's already been hacked. Someone's already in there. So then it's like then you're pushing the reset button and starting from there.
Wow, that is crazy. Some really eye-opening information there, Dallin. And I know a good bit more to the report, of course, and you've got all of that in your full article there on Tech Republic. Thanks for talking with us here today for this. And if you want to learn more about Dallin's article, make sure you check it out and much, much more on Tech Republic. Thanks for watching.